Welcome to another episode of Mom Knows Ball, the Bama edition. I'm Melinda King. Some of y'all call me Mom. I got guests today. Now, I'm going to introduce them. And then after I introduce them, if they have other stuff they want to share about themselves, I'll let them do that. So I got Jeremiah and Caleb Castille. So Jeremiah, he started a tradition that his family continues to move on. He played football at the University of Alabama. He was an All-American. He and I were actually at Alabama the same time. I mean, Jeremiah, that was like, what, 10, 15 years ago, something like that, right? I mean, yeah, just a few years ago. But, our paths didn't cross except at Ferguson one time watching Superman, but he didn't even remember that because he was part of the cool kids. And, I was a nerd, and, the football team, they were the cool people. He played football in the NFL for 6 years and now is the chaplain for the current Alabama football program. And then he's joined with his son, Caleb, who continued that tradition at Alabama, was a student athlete there, but deviated a little bit from the family business and is a successful actor. He was on NCIS LA and other movies and series. So welcome to the Mom Knows Ball family.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here and excited to get into some great conversation.
I am happy to have you here. And here's what you don't know. We don't tell people this until they get on the podcast. Once you become part of the family, we never let you out. So, we get your phone number, we get your email, and then we're always like, hey, you want to come back on the podcast? So it's not over after today. So what we do on this podcast is we really like to highlight the additional bond that sports creates between parents and their kids. And it's so much bigger than like what happens on the field, on the court. And so a little bit about what we do is normally we bring on moms and their kids. But today, we're going to highlight our football dad, Jeremiah Castille, and learn a little bit about his journey and about his son's journey. So everybody good with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm glad to have y'all here just as we finished the season for our beloved University of Alabama. Oh, yeah. My heart. It did not end the way we wanted it to. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. I have so many emotions about it.
This is probably the sorest part of this conversation that we're going to have today.
I know.
Yeah, we might as well get it out of the way.
We have to get it out and then we move on. So, yeah. So with the two of you, what do you think? What are you excited about for Alabama football? Because I want to move into like a positive, frame, because I've had plenty of negative thoughts over the last couple of days, but now I'm moving into a positive place.
Yeah, I mean, Dad, you were there. What do you you were there more than just the other day. You've been there for going on 25 years. So
well,
what are your...
For me, Melinda, when it's over, it's over. I'm be honest with you. I played for years, and I don't say that arrogantly. I was a defensive back.
Mm-hmm.
In practice, you get beat. You better forget that play and move to the next one right away, or you're going to get beat again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
That is my background when it comes to a losing play or losing a game.
Mm-hmm.
So when it hit 0-0-0-0 last Thursday, I'm on. Okay, actually, you already planning for the next year.
The next year.
What do we need to do you better be in a place where you're trying to improve before loss or before win.
Yeah.
So you're always trying to get better. And so when that last game is over with, whenever that is, then you move on, and that's my mindset, and it has been. And really, I learned that from Coach Bryant.
Yeah.
1979, we won national championship down in Superdome in Louisiana, beat Arkansas. Hey, the next week we had 1 week off, and we were back in off season. Then when we got back to school, we had 1 week off. So that's when I learned, hey, when it's over, you got to move to the next thing.
So if you linger too long, I mean, you can't even focus on what's next. So and I like that. I mean, my kids laugh at me because I'm hardcore, but when it's over, I'm kind of like, you know what? It is over. Like I have a moment and then I'm like, okay, let's just go. I mean, I watched Alabama basketball today. I'm like, okay, we're in basketball season. Let's get that going, and then we'll turn back around to football. Caleb, what were you at the game?
I wasn't at the game. I was here in Birmingham. We were watching, and yeah, I mean, I was just as disappointed as anybody else. I think, for me, when it just I don't like love losing at all, but like in that style, man, it just hurts even worse. It just I think I've still been thinking about it every day since the game. But no, I agree with what my dad was saying. I played defensive back as well, and
Mhm.
I agree with those with that way of thinking and how you have to go about things. And um, you know, I'm excited to see what happens for these guys over the off season, and how they'll go to work and try and get better in the areas that they need to. And hopefully, we'll be looking at a real shot next year at
Yeah,
the national championship.
yeah. And this is the last thing I'm gonna say about last season. You know, Alabama not having a running game, I can't. It blows my mind when I
Yeah.
think about how we were running back university. So that kind of blows my mind. But again, I'm not a coach. I'm not an offensive coordinator. I think I am sometime, but I'm sure we're going to work on that. So we're going to move past that and talk about some other fun things. And I am so excited about the fact that Caleb, you took a shift from athletics, and now you are a successful actor. How did that happen? I really want to dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if you would have asked me in 2013 in there somewhere, if I would be sitting here with a almost a decade or more longer career in the entertainment business, I would have just, I don't know, I would have been so surprised. But I transitioned out of football not knowing at all really what I wanted to do, and I did it before my 4 years down there were up. So after our national championship in Miami 2013, I had kind of said before that season, if we have another successful run this year, we go back to back. Um, I feel like I'm I'm going to be willing to let, I would say, kind of surrender to what I felt like God was doing in my life at the time. I just kind of had this feeling that football wasn't going to be what would I would say what I was going to pursue as far as NFL. And sure enough, we went undefeated, and so I sort of took that as a, okay, Lord, I'm gonna see what this is all about. And like I said, I just took a leap of faith, really, to try and see what it was. I was like, okay, on the bright side, I have a year to figure out what I'm gonna do with my life. And I felt like I had a jump on the guys in my class who had to finish football and go and try and get internships and do the whole thing. So I had one, ran into one gentleman who was a filmmaker and just saw something in me in a very brief conversation that inspired me to be, I would say, inspired me to be curious about acting and um, film and TV. And I just said, Lord, I'm going to pursue this. If it's of your will, awesome. If not, then I know you'll navigate me to what is. And it turned out about not even 2 years later, really like 14 months, I was starring in a movie. So yeah, I mean, it still feels surreal, thinking about that. I have a thing right here, back here, from this. This was a rap gift, but this Woodlawn film was my first movie,
Oh,
and
that was you played Tony Nathan. Was that the
yeah,
one?
yeah, I
Okay.
played Tony Nathan.
Wow.
And it was a very pivotal role and point in my life and career for me. But yeah, the transition wasn't a easy one. I'm sure he'll chime in and tell you how he felt about me
Yes,
calling him.
that's the question I have.
Yeah,
So, Jeremiah, when your son makes a decision to like move from like the family business, which was football at that time, into acting, which I love. I mean, I think you have a communications degree, right? From Alabama, right? That's
Yes,
you made,
yes,
yep.
yes.
And so I think we all majored in communications. I majored in communications too. And I wanted to be a sports writer, but back then in the day, 15 years ago, they were telling me, women don't do sports. So
wow.
so I know, right? I have another long story I'll tell y'all a little bit later. So Jeremiah, how did you feel when your son's like, okay, I'm gonna be an actor coming
Well,
from
Melinda,
Alabama?
he called me and he said, Dad, hey, I'm not going to play this year. I'm not going to play football.
Mm.
If I'm telling this story to a crowd, I said, I was polite and I started listening. But as I was listening, I was loading my gun to come down there and shoot him.
You were getting ready to get in the car,
Yeah,
right?
I was in the car and go drive down Tuscaloosa and shoot him. And so he's talking to me on the phone and he said something that I tell people God arrested me.
Mm.
And what he said was, Dad, it's my dream.
Mhm.
When Caleb said it's my dream, the Lord took me back to when I was a middle schooler. My dream to play football was at 13, 14. Actually, before that, I dreamed of playing pro football I watched football from like 7 years of age on. I watched
Wow.
NFL Today. So
Wow.
kind of probably first, second grade, I developed, hey, I want to be a pro football player. And so as that started to materialize when I started playing in middle school, my dad did not understand that.
Mm.
And he my dad just was a blue collar worker. He understood you go to work, you take care of your family. He didn't have a high school degree, hadn't been to college, so he just, what he knew is what he knew.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so he didn't support my dream. And one day he told me, I was playing middle school ball. He said, boy, you go to practice today, I'm gonna whoop your butt when you come home. He told me that before I went to school. That's the truth. And you know what I said? I said to him, well, I said, Dad, well, you might as well start whooping right now.
Wow.
That's how strong the vision was in me. That, he would have literally have to take my life in order to take that vision. And because God really gave it to me. And that's how strong it was. So when Caleb said what he said, I went all the way back and just boom.
You thought about that moment you had, right?
Yes, and I had made a decision. Whatever my children want to do, I'll support them. And so that was always in the back of my mind. So when he said it was his dream, really the Lord was saying, you can't touch that.
Mm-hmm.
That's off limits. And I feel that way for any person with a dream. It's off limits. Nobody else's opinion can. And anyway, so we got behind him and start the practical side of it. Was, now you got to start putting in place. He contacted it. Really, when I think about it, what I love about the story, Caleb's story, is a story of faith. That God has a vision for every person's life.
Mm-hmm.
Them finding out what that is, listening to in their relationship with him, and then pursuing it. And as Caleb started pursuing that, we started working together in one of the things we had done in our house. We would get up and we would go work out together and then do devotion.
Mm-hmm.
And he after he told me that deal about not playing, then spring or kind of summer rolled around and he called me again and he said, Dad, well, I'm going to come home for the summer. And that was another big oh man, wait, because he had a job and he was saying he was wanting to come home. I'm like, you need to do a job in Tuscaloosa. Don't be coming to Birmingham, bro.
That's funny. That is so funny. Just a little, we're in a different college football mode right now, right? Jeremiah, when you were in school, Caleb, when you were in school, there was no NIL. I mean, I remember like some of the athletes just, driving around in hoopties because, they didn't have any money. And, you couldn't really work a job and stuff because there were all these stipulations. And if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. It's totally different. So, I mean, Jeremiah, what are your thoughts on the current landscape of college football? Because it's so, your 12-team playoff, all this different stuff that's so different than when you were in school. And when you were in school as well, Caleb.
I think, when I was in school, I needed money as a student athlete. You need money. Athletes need money. I think the way that they've gone about it is wrong. And I say that 18-year-olds don't need to be multimillionaires. When you give kids that kind of money, they're bringing more problems to the practice. They're bringing more problems to their job. Their job is to play football. When you give them that kind of money at 18, we're saying you're mature enough to handle it. And we know an 18-year-old is not. And so what we're seeing is those young men are bringing problems because now they have money. And those problems are coming to the field and they're coming into their life. Whereas if it was less money, more structure to how that money is to be dispersed, then they can stay focused on maturing and building the character that they need to be building as a person. And you and I know that money don't solve all your problems. It brings you problems when it's not handled right.
Right.
So I think there's a maturity for when people should be able to handle money with that type of money. And we've just released this onto our young people, and I just think there should have been more structure to it.
More structure, yeah. And that's kind of how I felt. I have to say, I've always felt like schools made a lot of money off of student athletes. And I know in exchange, they got a college degree and, were able to set themselves up. I've always had, I took exception to the fact that student athletes were supposed to be broke, while they were in school. When I worked at Alabama, we kind of missed each other, Caleb. 2016 to 2020, I ran the Career Center. And so when I ran the Career Center, my student athletes, we couldn't really even get them internships because of the commitments that it was going to require and how it would be in conflict with what they needed to do. So I thought there needed to be something different. I think the transfer portal in conjunction with, one day you're over here and then the next day you're in another uniform and you don't have to sit out. I think something needs to be a little different. And I'm not, coaches are not that loyal. So I don't have that big thing about you got to be loyal, but there should be a little bit more structure. That's my opinion as somebody who has never played football, but who's somebody who really thinks they know the game. But so okay, we've taken so much more of your time than I expected. But you guys, your stories are so good. So here, I have two boys. Neither one of them went to Alabama. Jordan went to Syracuse. Crawford, my other son, went to UNT. But it was very clear in my house, they were going to be Alabama fans. They learned how to say Roll Tide before they learned. I mean, they sat on the sofa with me. I think they thought college football was this lady sits on the sofa, she screams at the TV, she coaching the game. They had no choice. So in your house, it was like you're going to be saying Roll Tide, or did anybody in your family have a choice to not be an Alabama fan?
You want to answer that?
Well, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I did not pressure. Wow. Tell you any story. Simeon was being recruited by Coach Saban when he was at LSU.
Okay.
And he came to our house. And with all of our Tim, Simeon, and were highly recruited nationally, and we left that up to them.
Wow!
And so Simeon, we were working out after Coach Saban came. He did a great job, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm a little nervous. He might end up going to LSU." So we went and worked out later that day, and I said, "Well, no," he said, "Dad, I made my decision." And Melinda, this big old lump came up in my throat.
You were like,
I was choked up.
You were like, okay, what we got? What we got?
Oh, this boyfriend, he said he's going to LSU. And Tim was already at Alabama.
Okay.
He was a freshman, and he said, "I'm going to Alabama with Tim." I went, hallelujah.
You were like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
But I didn't put that pressure on
Okay.
them, and so when what Caleb them have told me, said, "Dad, you were recruiting us when we were small with all the Alabama stories, Coach Bryant stories, and them going back down to games and people walking up to me." Just, "Hey, Jeremiah,"
right.
Them finding out, well, really, my dad's a legend out here. We just know him as Dad.
Yes.
And, so that was the recruit.
So you were actually recruiting them when you didn't even know you were recruiting them.
Yes.
So my boys, they wanted to be athletes. Jordan, I wish he was on here because he played 1 year of JV football, but he still talks about how he's got eligibility, so he's gonna go back and play college football.
He's going back for that.
He's gonna go back and play college football. So with his 1 year, but they, even though they, like I said, they both went. Jordan went to Syracuse, Crawford went to UNT. When they were in college, and I said something about cheering on these college teams, and they're like, "Mom, we've been cheering for Alabama all our life. How are we going to go and cheer for other schools?" It's like, it's cool that but we can't.
Especially the era of Alabama football that we grew up in.
I know.
You're not going from cheering, 17 years of Coach Saban and all those championships to cheering on Syracuse.
Yeah. I know Jordan's like, okay, I don't see anything in the chat. He was like, okay. But he did talk about going to tailgates, and they were like, it's slightly different than going to Alabama tailgates. So you all have just been great, and I'm going to continue to follow both of your stories, and I will I'll get your social media so when we put the episode out, we'll link it up. And so this concludes our Alabama edition of Mom Knows Ball. We'll do it. We're Jacksonville Jaguar fans.
Oh,
We have been the most patient NFL fans in the country, and because we lived in Jacksonville when the team came there, so I do a Jacksonville Jaguar edition, and we'll do that one after the game tomorrow. So I want all of our Mom Knows Ball fans to subscribe, like, share, comment, and I ask this of everybody who comes on, because I'm mom and I know ball. Jeremiah, do you know ball?
love it.
I not only I love the ball. I love ball when I played. I was undersized. When you're my size and you're successful at it, then you have to love it.
You have to love it, and you have to know it. And Caleb, do you know ball? Do you love ball?
I know ball. I love ball. For me, where I've transitioned into my life now in entertainment is, I feel like I've been given a tremendous responsibility to tell stories about ball. So, that's what I do now. Is what I love. I love producing, and you got to know ball to tell ball. So
Okay,
yeah.
so now that you're producing, now if you ever have a project and they're like, hey, we need like a podcaster, and maybe like in her early 40s, mid 40s, 50s, something like that, you have your people call my people. Well,
That's
I
right.
ain't got no people, so you just have them call me. So anyway,
Contact Jordan.
yeah, exactly. Thank y'all so much.
Hey,
And
thank you.
this was fun, and we will definitely come back and talk to you and get more information, because I love your story. And I will see you later. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Roll Tide.